Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I'm one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
George, the Archlector,
and Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
As you all know, we're covering The Blade itself, the first book in the original trilogy. We'll be covering the beginning of Part 2, which includes what freedom looks like, the King's justice, and means of escape on this episode. So let's get started. First off, before anything, I also want to continue to thank the fans, all you guys, our loyal followers, our many dozens, I guess we would say, or maybe our 1 dozen.
I think the dozen is probably being generous.
Yeah, right.
But we all know where you guys are watching that, like listen to a podcast like 3 or 4 times in a row. So.
Yeah, it's basically all it is.
Those who do watch are like obsessed.
Yeah, our 4 listeners are obsessed, and we appreciate your loyalty, really do. But also everyone's support and engagement across all the media forms like Reddit and even Instagram has been great. People really liked our post there. Also, in reference to the skit that I did, the initial skit, my girlfriend is actually very supportive. Everyone, she's actually like our biggest fan. And I made it seem like she was so unsupportive. That's my writing. That's not her personality.
My wife is also super supportive. I didn't think she was gonna like it at all, but apparently she's been listening to the episodes, and I think she's caught up now.
There you go. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
2
cool.
people listening at least.
Oh yeah.
She likes it, and her cousin too, because since we're not doing spoilers, they're actually following along with the story. Apparently, we're doing that well. So.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, a couple of my friends too have
you
listened.
guys who say that we should be doing spoilers.
Yeah.
Not really.
Don't know about fuck on. But...
I mean,
Abercrombie, they understand.
Yeah.
we get it. I mean, like, we kind of want to talk about spoilers, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of people who don't want to read the whole series, or it's not exactly their cup of tea in terms of like the grittiness of it. So being able just to know what's happening and be a part of it is, I think good for a lot of people. So
that's very true. Well, again, just wanted to say thank you guys for your help and your appreciation. Anyway, so
also,
let's start.
Caveat for this episode. Sorry if you guys can hear my wife in the background. She is streaming currently, so apologies if you guys do hear that pop up every now and then.
Yes, we had to alter our recording schedule for this week due to Father's Day. So, yeah, we're recording on Monday instead of Sunday. So what are you going to do? We got to work with what we got, right? Alrighty.
You have to work with the tools you have, you know?
That's exactly. As Baez would say. So let's start off with our first chapter read-through, which is what freedom looks like. This chapter... Does anyone want to take the chapter, or should I just?
We start off with the part 2 interim sort of quote, which is life the way it really is a battle not between good and bad, but between bad and worse. Which is just a fantastic way to just sum up this whole series.
It's very, very nice. It's quite the cheerful quote that we need as a readership, I believe. Well, here we get introduced to Pharaoh Malgin. I think she would be our last other POV character for this book, at least for the trilogy. We are introduced to her burying 3 comrades because apparently her and her formerly living comrades were involved in a skirmish of sorts with Gurkish soldiers. She doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of Gurkle.
No, not at all.
No. She would give a negative Yelp review if she was forced to.
And for those who don't know,
slave here again.
What was that, George?
I said 1 out of 5 would not be a slave here again.
Yeah, do you think everybody who was ever a slave in history would ever rate their slavers with a Yelp review? 5 out of 5 stars for being a good slaver.
Yeah. A good one. He was nice. Gave me more than my fair share of food.
And for
Oh, sorry. You go.
I was just gonna quickly say, for those who don't know, Gurkle is the southern continent in the circle of the world, and it is quite large and has the most people.
So I like how just graphic this whole first 2 pages is of this chapter. Because obviously we don't know who Pharaoh is yet until Your Way shows up in a moment. But it is just this great visual of, the dirt streaming over somebody's face as she's burying them, and it seems very, very kind of melancholic.
But then she's also like, that guy was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. She also, I guess, like hates the Gurkish so much that there's this one soldier who's just dying and is asking for water, and she's just like, "All right, here's some water," and instead of giving it to him, she drinks it. She pours it on her face. She's basically taking a bath in front of him.
Yeah, he's just doing his job, you know.
Oh, that's like, what it is. He's just doing his job. Okay.
Well, it's like whenever you like go to McDonald's, right? And you're like, I don't like McDonald's, but your friends go, so you're stuck there. And the McDonald's employee gets your order wrong, and so you just fucking scream at him. And the guy's like, I'm just trying to do my job. That's what Pharaoh's doing to this poor guy. He's just doing his job, you know, trying to kill her.
Right.
And she's like, fuck you. I hate the Gurgish.
Ooh. Yeah. That she is. And then we meet. What was I saying? I was saying. Oh, so then we meet Yulwei, this old gentleman who apparently has snuck up on Pharaoh without any issue, even though the dude is covered in bangles. And Pharaoh kind of freaks the fuck out. She tries to kill him multiple times. Isn't that true?
Yeah, she shoots him from like almost point blank range and just misses, which apparently is a very rare thing for her. Misses twice in a row, which absolutely infuriates her. And I think it comes back to what Harrison said in the previous episode. Like, obviously, Your Way is using some kind of magic here, and it is very effortless for him. He's just, it's just standing there smiling at her while she's trying to kill him, and he's like, sort of like the way an adult talks to a child when the child's trying to fight them or something. It's like, come on.
Right. That's driving her more angry by the moment. And we don't know if he's a magus, or a sorcerer. It's not clear in this chapter yet what's going on with him.
I mean, yeah, it's true, but we do learn pretty quick that he is a magus, so I think.
Okay. I was trying to keep them in suspense, but fuck it. Fuck suspense.
What is he?
What is he? Okay.
Well, it is true, because this is the first time we get a mention of eaters, because Pharaoh thinks he could be an eater, which, we haven't found out what that is yet. But
right.
That if he can do these sorts of supernatural things, then
right. That there's, like, we met Karib earlier, and we met Baya, so we know that there's more than one, I guess you could say, class of magic user. Harrison, is that what you would say?
More than one. Yeah, I guess class would be the best word for it. Category. More than one way to use magic, I guess, because all magic comes from the other side.
That is true. That is true. All right. So then after Pharaoh kind of realizes that she can't kill this guy, she's not happy about it, but she just lets him be. And then he helps the soldier. He gives him some water, and Pharaoh kind of just does not take kindly to that and smashes his head in with the shovel. So more water for the both of them, it seems like.
I always thought the part was kind of funny. Not the guy getting his head bashed in, but the fact that
right.
she like can't kill him. So she's just like, all right, I guess I'll just hang out with you here. Like she's like, she doesn't talk crap really. She just is like, okay, all right, I guess I can't kill him. So he hasn't killed me yet. I guess I'll just sit here.
Right. Because he could have killed her easy.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I like how she doesn't even think to sort of even consider who he is until after she can't kill him.
Yeah, she doesn't even hesitate. Like, she turns around, shoots him immediately.
She's the ultimate definition of shoot first, questions later.
Exactly.
Oh boy. So after he's like, why did you do that? And Pharaoh doesn't know how to answer that question. He asks her to come with him. to some unknown place of unknown destination. And then she agrees, I guess, and because it's either go with him or go further south into the Badlands where she's gonna die anyway because there's no food or water in that desolate area.
Yeah, so she's obviously like at the end of her rope here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? This is probably the very end of a very long journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously
Yeah.
we got to the end here, she's lost 3 of her mates. She's the last one left. And
Mm-hmm.
she's literally gonna suicide by desert
Mm-hmm.
if
Right.
your way hadn't turned up.
No, for sure.
And I think there's an interesting parallel here when you kind of look at what we've seen from Logan so far as well. You know, he's up in the super high north, and it's like, man, I might just go even far north and die for vengeance because that's awesome or whatever. And then he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Pharaoh would have done it. she would have been like, all right, I'm gonna go die in the Badlands. You know, I'm gonna go to the far south and just die because that's if Yule hadn't shown up. And I just think it's interesting to see. We see this parallel throughout the entire story, really, between these two characters and their choices.
Never thought of it that way. Good job, Harrison. I like that. I like that a lot. So after Pharaoh agrees that she'll go with Yulwei, they have to wait till nightfall. And she's cool with just waiting by the carcasses of the dead soldiers. And then as night falls, they see the outline of the Gurkish army that has been sent to basically track her. And quite a large army for one person. Like, she must have done some shit in Gurkul to incur this kind of wrath.
I mean, we really don't get that much information about it, really, you know?
We don't.
Now, Yulwei does have a line, though, here, right? He, I believe it's here whenever she's like, you know, fuck the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
And he goes, I heard you already did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was talking.
You're like, oh, shit.
Oh, you always spitting bars?
And she's clearly quite a famous person as well, because when the soldier asks for mercy, she turns around and says, do you not know who I am?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So her hatred of the Gurkish is clearly legendary.
For sure.
I mean, I was just going to say, you know, she seems to be in her 30s at least or so, and she's always been a slave for most of her life before that. So who knows? She could have been running around for 5-10 years, killing Gurkish for nonstop, and nobody could kill her.
That's true. Then we see Yulwei guides her past the Gurkish army, towards where it seems like the fires are most numerous, and that confuses Pharaoh. But Yulwei informs her that apparently there's an eater, where they assume Pharaoh will be most likely to go by. So Yola takes her the other way, and a couple of notes actually I want to bring up here. One appropriate to the current point in this chapter, one a little bit earlier. The first thing was Yulwei's brand of magic. It's interesting. I like it. And I thought there was a little funny comedic aspect to this part where Pharaoh, right before she tries to stab him, Yulwei, she goes, now she's about as deadly with a knife as a snake. And then he turns her knife into a snake. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a good part.
I didn't even realize that until on this reread. I was like, son of a bitch. And then Yulwei, I just question, if we know that Yulwei's a magus, does he have a staff? It doesn't seem like he has a staff, but I thought all magi have staffs.
They don't need it.
No, he doesn't need one.
They don't. Yeah.
He's cool.
Bias doesn't need one either.
I have a nice theory that Yulwei carved his staff up into those bangles.
Oh,
nice.
George
coming out with the theories.
Speculation.
Yeah, he's got nothing. He's got theories for days.
Yeah. And do you guys have any guesses of what Yulwei's, specialization is? If I have to guess, if Bias had 3, I would assume they all have 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what do you guys think his was?
Okay, so just to clarify, Bias is 3. You think it's fire, force, and will, right?
Well, no, it is. He says it is.
Oh, he says fire, force, and will. He says it. Okay. So
yes.
then Yulwei, I would have to
water. Maybe. Because he is like kind of No, maybe not.
Well, because
no.
otherwise, why would he carry a big thing of water on his chest? I think I know what they are, but I was just trying to, you know.
Um,
It could be like a time sort of manipulation.
or illusion, like an illusory kind of magic. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The magic system is a bit vague. Where if an illusion is just a concept, so
Mm-hmm.
how can you to make it like a study of it? I don't understand.
In fact, I think I know what it would be actually. So
Time is relative, man. Go ahead,
he
Harrison. What is it?
yeah. Yule also has fire as
Oh.
Oh yeah, of
spoiler.
course he does.
Yeah. And then he also, but I think that's probably his least one. The main one he uses, I believe what you would call it in the first law sense, is literally sense, like senses.
Hmm.
He can manipulate senses to the utmost degree, you know. Whereas Bias can kind of manipulate wills at ease, and he can kind of, you know, he is really good with force.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Yue has no problem changing what people perceive, but since it's a science, it has to be, you know, there. It's not just, oh, I wave my hand and you don't see anything. It's he's changing whatever somebody sees to see what it be what he wants.
So he's literally changing their biology.
Because he also it senses and I think honestly it might honestly just be he's super specialized in the body period because without getting into too much spoilers, he does some things to some bodies in the future
Mm-hmm.
here that he basically says he did some things internally.
No, right. I know what you're talking about. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. Um, aside from that little tangent where we discuss Yule's possible magical specialties, uh, we see that Yule can easily guide Pharaoh past the Gurkish army, and then not Yarrow, Pharaoh, for some reason decides like she's gonna risk being discovered, like they're being discovered because she hears a conversation between three random soldiers, and they're essentially talking about her. And you know, one's a big guy, one's like a thin Weasley kind of guy, and the last one is a young kid who seems to have have started a family already,
Hmm.
and she feels this rage as to why this guy should be allowed to have a family, and gets real close to stabbing this guy to the point where when Yue is like, Pharaoh, what are you doing? Stop it. Like it's countering, like his yelling is countering his own magic where the kid thinks he hears him and is looking right at Pharaoh but doesn't realize it. It's like this girl, this poor woman, was about to risk it all just for some shit talking. And the young kid wasn't even shit talking her. If anything, he was like, I don't really want to catch her. So
Yeah, I like the way that the Gurkish, the first thing, the first Gurkish people that we see, despite being the Union's main enemy and Pharaoh's main enemy, it's just these three regular dudes again.
right.
You know, one's got a family, one's a bit of a dickhead, and one's a bit chill. I just thought, they seem like sound guys, you know?
Yeah.
yeah, I actually really like how they're just like you said, George, through random dudes. It's kind of a testament to George's writing, or to Joe's writing. Sorry. Whenever you see them, you're kind of like, oh, here we go. Here are the bad guys, right? You know, I've already talked about how the Gurkish are bad and stuff in the earlier chapters, from the Union's perspective, and then we get to them, we're like, oh, they're just normal people, completely normal. They're like joking, giving the other, the young guy a hard time on that, and I just kind of love that even these super minor characters are just seen as normal people, like everybody else is in the series, no matter what they pretend to be.
Exactly. There isn't any black and white characters. It's all shades of gray in this series, which is why we all love it. Um, so then afterwards, after she decides to not stab these unsuspecting fellows, she walks away. Yule is now following her, and then she just kind of stops and collapses, almost in like grief or like having an existential crisis. And then she asks Yulwei, "There's nothing inside of me." Like she says to Yulwei, "There's nothing inside of me. Like I'm empty, essentially." And then Yulwei, you know, and even though it's been a short amount of time where she's tried to kill him three times and just has been cursing him out, he says like there's actually something worth saving there. I just realized, and that was, aw, tear for
I
Pharaoh.
like that. Yeah, it's a good introduction to Pharaoh, I think, and I do like the fact that she's saved for the second part because it's a totally different sort of perspective from what we get in the first part.
I thought that was an interesting choice by Joe to do that, to just introduce a main POV character in the middle of the book.
Well, it definitely seems like he kind of, this whole, as we'll see in these next few chapters that we're also going through, it's kind of expanding the world in its entirety. We're seeing more of it and how things are affecting it, kind of a bit more of the background stuff. And Pharaoh's a perfect introduction to like Gurgle. And so I didn't expect it when I was reading. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
And also these soldiers, don't you guys love the way they react to each other? Like the guy thinks he hears something. He looks right at Pharaoh, even though he doesn't see her. And then the other soldier goes, "Oh my God, she's right in front of you." And then they're like, "Oh, we got you."
You silly bitch.
Classic stereotype fake out. I like it.
Even like Pharaoh was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, even she's like, "Oh God, it's over."
They're gonna sound the alarm. No, yeah, it's funny. It's a good fake out for sure, like you said, George. Or was Harrison? Did you say fake out?
Yeah. Oh, it was one of us.
One of you guys. Both of you
We
guys.
said it.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think this is also kind of like that. Whenever he says that to her, honestly, I think that's kind of the sweetest moment so far in the entire series. Like we haven't really had a nice, sweet moment. I guess maybe between Logan and Kwai a little bit. Whenever he's talking about his past, and he's like, "Oh, I don't care." But this is like the first moment you're like, "Oh, that's sweet."
Yeah, I would say this is the sweetest moment. Closest second would be when Kwai assures Logan, like, "Hey, you may have murdered half the North, but you saved my life, so we're all good." that one, or when Logan gives him the last of his food, even though he hadn't.
Oh yeah.
I think that's about it. Not we're skimping on all the niceties in the first law because there are none.
There's only death.
That's why because there's so few of them that they stand out.
That's true.
Whenever I first read this, I was like, "That's really sweet," and then I thought to myself, "Is this just really sweet because nothing else has been very sweet?"
It's relative to the lack of niceties. Oh, do you guys have any other notes on the chapter?
I think we're ready to.
Okay. Well, let's get on to ratings. George, what would you rate this chapter?
I'd rate this one 5 out of 9 fingers.
That is the same score I had for it. Look at you. Look at us. Look at us.
Yeah,
Why would you give it a 5?
I'd say it's a solid, introduction to Pharaoh. Get a lot. We don't get a lot of exposition or backstory, and we get Yulwei as well, which is who's a fantastic character. But no, it's just a solid chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, I
what
agree.
about you? Why would you say 5 out of 5?
I would say 5, just same thing. It's a good introduction to Pharaoh, just her personality. This chapter only runs maybe 10, 15 pages, if less than that. But we already know, okay, so she has this kind of pattern of behavior. We know she's going to be cranky, and it's understandable because she's a fucking former slave. And we get to meet another Magus. And pretty much, they're on their way somewhere. We don't know where, and just went from point A to point B, or point A to point A, point middle. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? So
I get you.
Harrison?
I think I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 9. For the same reason you guys said, but a little bit more just because I think the characterization that Pharaoh gets is some of the best for in the first. As in terms of introductions, I think she is one of the best introductions. We get to learn so much about her, and not just like about like what kind of like her past or something, but we actually get to like see how her brain works. She's terrible at confronting herself. She's terrible at self-reflection, and the only reason she does it is because some nice old man wanted to, basically was not allowed to. She couldn't kill him, so she didn't have a choice to finally reflect on herself and her decisions. And she did not exactly like all that she was. She kind of realized, I feel like that was earned, that the fact that she realized that she needed she didn't have anything else other than vengeance, and I just really liked that was felt earned in such a short period of time.
Oh, I like that.
I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, me neither. To think about the fact that she was unable to kill her way out of a awkward situation, forced her to confront herself. It's also like, oh, so someone says, "Hey, you didn't return my jar of sugar," and she's just like, "Murder," and then that's it. She doesn't have to deal with the awkwardness and like, "Oh man, I stole his sugar." She just murders and gets out of situations. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just want to say I love Stephen Pacey's choice for Pharaoh's accent in these
Oh,
books.
absolutely.
I just completely did not see that coming, but it works
French
so
out
well.
of nowhere. So cool. So cool.
What about Yue? What is Yue rocking? You know what I mean? His voice is so deep.
I don't
George,
know.
you're the resident accent expert, so
That is quite difficult.
is it?
It's definitely sort of like, Bird or Malgin. Some of the lines in this with these two as well are incredible. My favorite one is, "Who are you, a bastard? They call me your way. All bastard will do for you."
Honestly, in every chapter inside of all of his books, there's always like these exchanges that are so real and yet so hilarious.
Awesome. All right. And so Harrison with the 6 out of 9. All right. Like it. All right. So let's move on to our next segment, which is question of the week. Our first time doing this segment. So, George, would you like to take this, or Harrison?
So this is great, and thanks for everybody that submitted your questions. Some of them we can't actually do them until later because they're very spoilery. We are saving these up in a little archive for the future. So,
and we will be getting into some Practical Frost fan fiction. We will. Don't worry.
We promise.
We didn't realize it was such a hit.
The people are clamoring for it.
So our question of the day is from Barking Panther, and it's basically, what else apart from soup do you think that Glockter eats, or what he can eat?
But it seems like he literally just eats soup, but I'm sure he can eat other things, right? Like mashed potatoes, right?
That's what I mean, right? Are you sure he's not just being grumpy bastard and just going, and wallowing in self-pity and just having the same soup every day?
Yeah, just give me the porridge and honey so I could bitch about it.
I think, think of actually, just to that point, it might be that people, like whenever he's served by other people, they purposely give him the soup because they're like, "Oh, that's all he can eat," and he's like, "Oh my god, I can eat other things, you idiots."
That's true, but then he would have made it known he would have told Barnum, like, "Hey, can you give me some like actual steak?"
Well, he can't eat actual steak.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he actually wanted, like, I guess in response to what you said. But...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess. Like, what do you guys think? I think mashed potatoes, right?
Mashed potatoes. I have a theory. Go ahead, George.
I reckon you could even go as far as, like, you could have, like, pulled pork. That's fucking soft as fuck.
You
know what I mean? And it just makes me think that the Union is just very behind culinarily.
Oh, very.
Just like the English. I'm just kidding.
Just
I'm kidding.
Just like post-war Britain, you had to ration your peas. Oh, mate. Sorry, George. So sorry. Listen, Gordon Ramsay did you guys a huge favor. He bumped you guys up in the light in the eyes of all the chefs in the world.
Isn't he Scottish?
Nah. He's not Scottish. Is he? Swear that dude from London.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyways.
It seems like it's a soft spot for George, so we'll skip right over that. Well, I have a theory. That, Glockton wants to eat like some meat. That Barnum chews it up first for him and then regurgitates it like a mother bird does to his chicks.
Barnum! What?
Feed me, Barnum.
Damn it, Barnum, that's not chewed enough.
A bit more salt, Barnum.
Oh my god. This did not go the way I thought it was going to go.
I
you
never
thought we
even
were-
thought about this.
You thought we were going to actually provide some culinary choices, George? Did you not know what podcast we're doing?
Yeah. I can just imagine Practical Frost sat there chopping up meat very, very small bits for Glockter.
Leaning over and beating to him with the bib on.
One at a time.
Just tilts his head back and just a drop at a time. Whoop.
Like a
Whoop.
snake.
And all while he's just like soothingly like.
Oh dear.
I think that he probably just eats forage and honey for like breakfast, right? And then he, I mean, if you're out and about, right? Think about how much preparation it takes, right? So, I mean, he can't stop at like the union's equivalent of like a little, truck stop or something. A food truck. He can't do that because it's probably gonna be meat and bread and stuff. He's not gonna be able to chew it up.
Right.
That's very true. Yeah, you can't take soup and porridge everywhere you go with you.
Right.
Yeah. So imagine going up to a food truck and being like, "Hey, can you like mash it up?"
Hey, give me a taco, but just bundle it up and squish it, and then just shove it in my mouth.
That's the other thing too with it is the fact that if you think about it, how much you have to smash things down. When does normal food smashed up become soup? You know what I mean?
So it's a fine line between everything and soup, isn't it?
Oh man, if Glockter goes that route, some of the driest meals he'll ever have if he doesn't introduce some kind of liquid.
I could totally see him like saying that too. There's a fine line between soup and everything else.
Oh dear.
Oh, wow! I think that answered that question as adequately as possible.
So once again, thank you, user Barking Panther, for that lovely tirade that we just had.
That was awesome.
Thanks. That was a good first question of the week for us. Good job, guys. All right, so then we move on to our second chapter read through, which is the King's Justice. And here we come upon Giselle Danlutha. He is currently standing guard for an open council meeting, which makes me wonder, how often does the open council meet up? Is it like once a day, or what would you think?
I would assume once a day.
Once a day, okay.
I think once a day, but the closed council aren't always there.
Right, okay, it's
and the big boys aren't there usually, like Brock and Isher and Huygen and Berzin,
Yeah,
right, okay.
Because hasn't it been mentioned already that most of the time they just send a proxy, they just send someone to sit in for them.
Right, and sometimes not even that, like they don't care because they just know that it's not going to really, it's a waste of time and it's not going to affect them. They only need to come in if it actually affects them.
Right. Like today.
And today is a fun open council session because this is the one where the investigation into the Mercers, the Guild of Mercers, comes to light. Giselle and Gyllenhaal take up their positions, and then we see Archlector Salt come in with High Justice Morovia, and of course our boy Lord Chamberlain Hoff. They have a different announcer, one that takes his job not too seriously, but he's no nonsense. Not like the previous announcer. And basically Salt starts to condemn the Guild of Mercers for treason against the king, even though they helped out against the war against the Gurkish. And they, basically brought Westport into the fold of the Union.
And I love the way Salt brings this up. It's like, it gets everybody on one page. Like, you remember how good those Mercer guys are? They're really good. And treason! Everyone's just like, whoa!
What?
It's like the crowd gasps.
It's like a courtroom drama or something.
Oh, and the way Pacey does it too, because then Brock is like, "How dare you, Salt? We demand proof!"
And then he's like, "I got your proof, motherfuckers!" And then the door opens, a side door opens, and Glockter comes out with the three prisoners: Salem Ruse, Copy, and why am I brain flight? Gornfred Harnlock, whatever. And Frost is like, following them with, they're all chained and manacled. They're all shaved, wearing plain brown clothing. as a sign of the penitent confessed traitors. And so then Glocta starts asking each of them in turn questions that basically damn the Guild of Mercers from a circumstantial point of view, right? You would say, like, it's just all he say, she
So we
say.
basically get the fruits of Glocta's first 4 chapters here.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
all the questions that he's asked so far throughout are all coming to the fore, and they're all being exposed in a certain
Mm-hmm.
way, because we know that half of this information has been coerced and not
Mm-hmm.
suggested. It's not really the truth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Yeah, and basically they just go through. I mean, it's very clear that these men are just repeating lines they have been told. It's super clear that they have, because they're like fucked up and they're beat up and they're like not even there. They're just like reading a script basically, which is what it is. And I don't know, man. I really like the lords in this in this chapter, just simply because like the little back and forth that we don't fully understand yet, of like Salt's, the way he talks to like Brock and Isher, the big lords, and how he's kind of like lording it over him. He's like, "Look, I have the power now, haha, you stupid guys,"
Nobleman.
Yeah,
Right.
he's like, he smiles at him and he's like, "Our investigation began some months ago." It's
Well, I remember, if I remember correctly from his monologue earlier, he doesn't have a problem with noblemen. He has a problem with the merchant class, because it could be someone could get rich and they could have common blood. Not they're not blue bloods. So I think he's he's enjoying more so the fact that he's just shitting on the mercers, like the merchant class, than noblemen. But of course, he always probably has a thing about
well, it's like,
he
I
wants to
think
be the most powerful, I think.
Exactly that, Jeff. I think it's the Brock and Isha that have been named so far are obviously like the foremost of the noblemen.
Right.
And you can't let anyone stand too tall. You have to make sure they stay in their place as much as anybody else.
That's true. Harrison, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
no, you're good, man. I was just kind of gonna say what George said is basically, it's you're right. It's less so about the nobleman; it's more about his power and the Mercers. But clearly, by the way that they're talking, the noblemen, especially Brock, Isher, Berzin, and Huygen, they're in league with the Mercers. They
Oh,
probably
sure.
have deals with them. They have, they're the ones who maybe even set up the deal. That's why Stolt is looking at them like, "See, I have the power, you don't." It's not exactly against
Yeah.
them. It's
Right.
more like, I'm in charge and you guys aren't. What are you gonna do about it?
Right. He's lording it over the lords. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I think you're right there. It's a big shift in power that we don't really fully understand.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole Mercer incident here is kind of, it has a much bigger ripple effect than I think we realize until you get really far into the series.
That's very true. And I also want to point out something really funny. When Glocta starts asking questions, the first person is Salem Ruse. The announcer, well, not even the announcer. Glocta asks him, "What is your name?" And he says Salem Ruse. And then Giselle is like indignant. He's like, "Oh, my family knows this man. We're tangentially like linked. You know what I mean? Like, my father shook his hand. How dare he be a traitor? Oh, we must wipe off all traces of connection to this fucker." It's like, whoa,
Yeah,
man.
I always love that Giselle has his own little like thing going on in his head. Like, kind of like, I mean, everybody does, right? But I always like how he's like got completely different priorities than what everybody else does during the scene every single time.
It's just completely self-obsessed, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So self-obsessed. Everyone's like, "Oh no, the king's taxes, they're being evaded. Is this happening to the Mercers? No, they might be innocent." Giselle's like, "This looks
I know
terrible
that
for
guy.
me and my family."
I better make sure I don't talk to that guy again.
Fucking George, did you say I know that guy?
Yeah, he's just in the corner like, "Oh, yeah, I think I know that guy." Just completely oblivious to what's
But the
going
funny
on.
thing is, too, is we've all been there, right? Like, we see something happen to somebody, and we're like, "Oh, I know that guy." And like, whatever's
Motherfucker was at my
happening,
house.
that guy could have like killed people, and we're like, "Oh, I think I know that guy." Like, that's what we care about. The fact that we know somebody on TV.
That's true,
Yeah.
and that's a very human thing, isn't it?
Yeah. The funniest part was the last line. "How dare he be a traitor, the bastard." like Ruse is intentionally insulting Giselle by being involved in all this. What a self-obsessed prick. Sorry.
No, you're
And
right.
then so he keeps asking him the questions. Carpe is basically barely registering what's happening around him when he's being asked the questions. And Hornlock is just, he's too trained. He's too overtrained to the point where he's just like repeating the same thing. And Glock's like, shut the fuck up already.
He's like a good dog, right? Yeah.
He's like, yes.
It's Colt. He did it. It was Colt. I swear. I did it. It was Colt.
Great. Now we're gonna go ahead and talk about what's going on after. Colt did this. Shut the fuck up.
And after Cole says this thing, I love. There's two. I mean, like I said, I already like the way they talk, like the accents that he gives them. But in the audiobook, Brock is like, "This is a sham. This is an insult."
Yeah.
I just love the way he fucking says that, man. It's so pretentious. No one talks like that.
That's very much like the old style kind of aristocrat. I love it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can only imagine. And but funny enough, for someone that we know is a nobleman, and we get the sense that noblemen tend to be pricks. Lord Brock is appealing for something that it's obvious that this is not real justice. These guys have plainly been tortured. It's obvious especially when one guy just starts bleeding randomly from his nose and is drooling, and the other guy is just having a very unnecessary, like a case of Tourette's out of nowhere. It's obvious that it's torture, but none of the Lord at this point, once the people that are part of the Mercers admit to their culpability in something, the other lords are like, well,
it's over, don't they? And I do like that Brock brings up actually a genuine point. Like, these guys have clearly been tortured, and how do we know what they've said is actually true? Because if someone's been tortured, they'll say anything.
Right.
Exactly.
And then Salt just turns around and he does the typical political thing, and he goes, "Oh, does that mean that you want to protect traitors and criminals?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah. How would you do it, huh? How would you deal with them?
Yeah, I appreciate, like, in this, we don't get to see Brock for that much here, but I like that he, despite everything going on, it kind of shows his position in the Union as a whole. Despite him being a nobleman, and they've kind of already digged on noblemen, about how they're not, as good and blah blah blah. Lord Brock has enough influence, enough power, and enough, like, I guess I would say bravery, for seeing how corrupt the Union is, to stand up and be like, "No, I'm not standing up for this. This is wrong. I'm leaving. See you later." I think that's I like that, because it shows his position in the Union as somebody who is formidable.
That's true. Yeah, he doesn't want to stand for. He even pleads to High Justice Morovia to do something about it, and High Justice is like, "Listen, man, it ain't a day for common sense. All these motherfuckers are against me. What can I do?" Like, there's a limit to his power, right?
Yeah. And basically, at this point, what's happened is Glock does, with all the evidence he's gathered and Salt's way with words, they've proved that the Mercers have been traitors to the Union, per se, and that they will their license will be revoked, which is quite significant, since it makes them a hell of a lot of money out of Westport.
Right. The license is revoked, and it's now in the hands of the Inquisition, aka in Arch-Lector Salt's hands.
And the king's personal hands, instead of it being in the merchant classes.
True. And then Glock is commanded to go ahead and arrest Magister Coster dan Colt, who is the head of the Mercers. And I like this part here where Lord Chamberlain Hoff looks at Jalenhorn, and he's like, "You," and then he goes, "Lieutenant Jalenhorn, my lord," and he's like, "Whatever."
Yeah, who cares?
He's like, "I really don't give a shit.
I don't give a fuck who you are. Just take 20 of these guys and go help Glockta." Jesus Christ. Oh, the shit.
It's funny too, because
downhill.
Jalenhorn is being, like, genuine. Like, Jalenhorn's a pretty good guy, and he's just like,
such a good guy.
"Lieutenant Jalenhorn, my lord, I'm here to report."
Okay, whatever. Get the fuck out of here.
And then Giselle goes outside, and everyone's kind of freaking out. And he does notice Artie talking to a certain young officer named Brent, and
Ooh.
this pisses him right off.
Oh,
He's
he
like,
gets
"How
jealous.
dare Brent talk to that woman? That woman is not mine, but I would like her to be. So fuck off, Brent." And
Yeah.
and he also has the most selfish thought that I think is that he is one of the most selfish thoughts he's ever had, and that
Mhm.
is, she must have been talking to this man just to piss me off.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's just more evidence of how self-obsessed and just how naive and out of touch Giselle is.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about the part where he says, or maybe for a silly instant, whether she might have arranged a meeting?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
okay. Well, two things. A, first off, I just want to point out Giselle's fury, hatred, or issue with Brent seems to be never ending, and I am here for it. That he just gets shit on so much, and Brent's like, Giselle, hey, how are you? Look who I'm talking to, and then Giselle's like, fuck off.
Yeah, he pulls rank on him, which we haven't seen anyone do so far. Like, even though they're all different ranks, they're all mates.
Right. And Brent is like actually being nice to Giselle. This is after Giselle has, remember when Giselle took all his money? That's the last we see the interaction between these two. So Giselle just didn't give a fuck. But here's the thing. I thought this was written that, like, yes, he's very self-absorbed, but he turned and he caught just for a moment a self-satisfied smirk. And I could see Artie kind of doing that though, like arranging to talk to a similar, is I don't know. Brent is a
Yeah, I get
lieutenant.
that.
Brent is a
um,
lieutenant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so Giselle's a captain, so obviously he's higher ranking. And like I think it's a mixture of both self-absorption and also Artie just always trying to get like a little dig at Giselle, especially since he's the only one that's been giving her any attention, and he hasn't for a few days or a week or so since Artie shat on him when he thought about quitting fencing. And so she's like, maybe it's time to go fuck with him. I could
yeah, well,
definitely see her doing that.
he has this line. What is that line that he says? Where he's like, "I suppose I made her wait long enough," or whatever he says.
Yeah.
I given her enough time to apologize. She's been
Yeah,
punished long
yeah,
enough.
yeah. She's been punished.
It's like,
I think that Artie, to a certain degree, I think she basically saw Brent, was looking for attention, and then she saw Giselle walk up, and she thought, "Oh, this should be entertaining." And then
yeah,
she saw
yeah.
him react, and she was like, "Yeah, that's what I thought. That was pretty funny to see how
Oh,
he
good.
upset he got." I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. I don't think
Yeah,
she
okay.
talked to him on purpose, but after she saw him, she was in for the ride.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, like, okay. I like that. And then I like how Giselle gets himself into trouble here. He's like, fucking Brent, that prick. He's got no blood, no money. And then she's like me? And then he's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah. And then he just goes, "Oh, but he's a moron."
Yeah, he whined.
Of
He
course.
whined. Pacey's rendition of that was hilarious, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, after that, she says, yeah, he is an idiot. And then she just takes his arm and is like, let's walk. And like, oh, he's just back to being guided by her. And then, she asks him about like what happened. Is it true that the Mercers are finished? He's like, yep. And he's like, yeah, your boy Sanden Glockta, he was in the middle of it, quite the show. And then he was like, yeah, you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of him, crippled or not. And he even admitted, like, yeah, no, I wouldn't want to do either. And it's funny that Giselle straight up admitted that for such a like a high sense of importance that he has of himself in regards to himself, he would not want to really truly piss off Glockta.
Oh no, I mean he's self-obsessed, but he's not completely stupid.
Yeah, he has a sense of self-preservation for sure.
Well, the this little chapter here, honestly, just kind of like how the last chapter introduced Sarah to expand the world. This chapter has kind of shown how much some of our characters have progressed, whether it be within the story itself, like Glokta,
Hmm.
or in Giselle's case, and Artie's case, we see them how they've kind of changed a little bit. Nothing crazy, but like Giselle now kind of admits that he likes seeing Artie. Artie is clearly not just pandering towards Giselle. She clearly kind of enjoys his company, and they're smiling at each other and everything. And I just like that little evolution of their characters in this chapter.
Yeah, definitely some growth here for sure.
100%.
The characterization continues to build upon itself, which is great. And then he does a little dig, like because she says, "How's the swordplay going?" He goes, "Not bad." And then he says, "Well, how's the drinking going?"
Nice.
she goes, "Fucking going fantastic. If there was a contest every year, I'd be a fucking winner."
Yeah.
He's such a
And I
fucking
love
drunk.
the last line here, which is, she's so damn fine looking and so clever and sharp and fearless. If only she had the right blood and some money, lots of money.
Money talks, baby. Money talks. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm gonna cut that burp out.
So, what would you give this chapter, Jeff?
Oh, I'm giving this a 6 and a knuckle.
Mm.
I like this chapter. It generally just stayed in one place, which is the trial, we can call it, or the pseudo trial. But
Yeah.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. Nothing like earth shattering. We kind of knew where this was gonna go from like Glock's earlier chapters. I think that Harrison, you said that. And I do like the building up of the characterization that we just talked about with Giselle and Artie, and obviously when Giselle's just indignant of like Salem Ruse being like linked to his family, just fucking great. So 6 and a knuckle out of 9 fingers from me.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Jeff, because, like you said, everything in this chapter is just perfectly crafted to show you what it wants to show you. And there isn't a wasted. And obviously, Salt is the best character in this chapter.
Me and George are fucking. We're simpatico in this one. I like this.
I'm left out. I'm gonna I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out
What
of
the
9.
fuck? You went down?
Yeah, I went down. I know I'm a rebel. I know. I feel like
I'm up at least.
no. Sometimes I feel like I'm like the guy who what is that term called where you basically always
Contrarian.
disagree? Yeah, contrarian.
Yeah,
Sometimes I feel like I'm the contrarian. But honestly, I really
the
like
youth
this
in you.
chapter for the. I have to be different.
I gotta express myself.
I like the characterization and I like the progression of the plot. But there's also like not a lot of meat here. It's all like really surface level stuff. Like it's fun. But it's not, to me, it's like definitely not as good as the previous chapter where we get to see this in-depth look at Pharaoh in one chapter and get to see this kind of relationship blossom between her and Yulwei in such a short period of time. This one's kind of like these events needed to happen. It's very entertaining. We know we've been waiting for this moment, but it's also in terms, and I agree that it's also written very well. But again, being a lower scored in our rankings here doesn't mean it's bad. None of the chapters in the series are bad. It's just our preferences. So it's a very average chapter for me overall, just simply because it lacks in some ways, but is really great in others. So
okay, Harrison. All right, well put. Like George said, well put. Good job. Keep an eye on you for the third one, though.
I am the contrarian.
Yeah, that you are. All right. Our next segment is our best meme of the week. George or Harrison? I keep forgetting which one is responsible. I think it's George. Go ahead, George.
He's
so obviously we're just gonna post the link in the description wherever you're watching this, and it's by user Watermelon Mannequin on Reddit with the tag "stupid fucking pink." That's fantastic. So if you don't mind spoilers, you just go and check that out.
We figured it coincided nicely with the introduction of Pharaoh.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the way she says that. I was just gonna say I love the way she says that.
Pink.
By Pacey.
Yeah, wait till you get to that chapter, guys. You'll love it. If you haven't already reread this book series for the 1,000th time like us. So we move on to our third chapter read through, and this chapter is Means of Escape. So this basically picks up right where we left off in the trial, which is now Glock's perspective, and we're at the doors of the Guild Hall of the Mercers. And it's Glock accompanied by Frost, Jallenhorm, and a bunch of other soldiers and practicals. And then they're there to arrest Magister Colt and all the other accomplices that could possibly be involved in this Ponzi scheme, apparently. Jallenhorm keeps knocking on the door, and he's so nice and polite that he's hoping and he's expecting someone to open the door.
Yeah, just knocking on the door, like, open up in the name of His Majesty. And it's like, seriously, you really think that's gonna work?
It's like, if you said it once and they haven't opened the door, they heard you and just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And Glockner's like, why is he so stupid?
And then he goes, "Would you just break the door down?" And then Jallenhorn's like, "Huh?" Yeah. And then Frost just barrels into the door, and he's like, "That's how you do it." And then what else? And then they all burst into the building. Frost and the practicals, they beat the shit out of everybody and they arrest everyone in sight. Even people are just like, I surrender. And they just get cracked in the face.
And I like how Glock's is just like pointing at everyone, like, arrest him, arrest him, arrest everyone.
See that cat over there? Arrest that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Seize him.
Seize him. Jallenhorn is just confused. Glock has to beat some dude off of him who's like, I'm innocent, and he's like, get this guy off me, and then practical just cracks him over the head with one of their billy sticks, let's just say. And then Glock meets a set of stairs. He's like, God damn it, my old enemies, my arch nemesis. Yeah. He has to go up the stairs. He tells Frost, just get the fuck up there, and Frost just zooms past him, and he almost busts his ass. But then Jallenhorn is there to catch him and helps him up, and he's like, oh, I guess he has his uses after all. And then gets to the top of the stairs. Apparently, there's 2 guards protecting this office, and Frost is like, motherfuckers, because he just has his fist, and the guards have swords, and then Jallenhorn is there next, arm to shoulder with Frost with his sword drawn. And then this is where I think we get our first or maybe our second confirmation that Frost doesn't have a tongue, if I'm not mistaken. Where he goes, the tongueless torturer and the flower chivalry. It's like, okay, so
no, he mentions it. Remember, Jeff, when we first talked.
Go ahead, Harrison.
Yeah, he mentions how he has like he's the. I think he mentioned in the very beginning, actually, when he first talks about Frost.
Yeah, I thought he said like he's the half-tongued mumble or something like that. He said once.
Yeah.
So like, there's definitely like a lack of tongue on Frost's part. Okay,
that's what we can.
Less than average number of tongue.
What we can confirm is that Frost has
2 inches.
Yeah. he's stubby. All right, he's stubby in the mouth.
He's stubby in the mouth. Hashtag tongue stub. Go ahead, Harrison.
No, that's all I was gonna say.
Oh, that's all you were gonna say. Okay, great.
As the Adeptus Historical, I feel like I had to correct you.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate it. That's what you're there for. I'll just have the Archlector black bag you later.
What?
So the Frost, after the guards, drop their swords when Glockner promises them they won't be hurt, Frost just beats the shit out of both of them. And Jallenhorn he's even more confused. He's like, what?
Yeah, he's like an horror. He's like, my God.
He's like, you promised them safety. And then Glockner's like, don't worry about it. And then tells Frost to go down a side door. And then Glockner and Jallenhorn enter through the main door, and it's unlocked. And it's a very giant office. They say it's as big as a barn, and it's overstuffed. It's everything's just it's overshadowed. Like it's just over the top, and he sees Magister Colt at his giant ass desk that is also gilded, which means it's a layer of gold over it, right? That's insane.
It's just absolutely insane. Like, it's just incredible.
So obnoxious.
And Colt is already planning his escape by he's got a noose around his neck, and he's right by the window, so he's ready to go. Mm-hmm. He's not getting taken alive.
No, he's not. And the other end of the rope is tied around the leg of this giant cabinet. That's just like, I guess, near him somewhere, like by the desk. And then Glockner and Colt have this nice back and forth, where Glock is like, yeah, we knew that K-Line was your snitch. And then Colt's like, ha, stupid. It wasn't K-Line. It was the secretary. It's like, oh, shit. That little bastard. So that was pretty cool. That like K-Line, I guess through it all, was actually like honorable and innocent.
Well, reasonably.
Yeah, like more so than like the secretary, you know.
Right, for sure. Like, but it's funny because I think it's a callback to what you said, Harrison. Like when we first meet K-Line, that like we see that compared to other characters in the first Saw series, Superior K-Line is more honorable, you could say.
He's at least loyal to the Union, at the very least.
Right, for sure. And we see that here on display, although it didn't matter in terms of his character's fate. Because we pretty much can assume that he's dead or he's in England or something, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So then Colt, yeah, if he's lucky. And then Colt, basically, he starts making fun of Glock. That like, you don't even know what side you're on, you goofball. You don't even know what the sides are. You're out here thinking you know everything, and you know nothing. Call back to Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. You know nothing, cripple. That's actually a line, so a little offensive, but okay, on the nose. And then this is where he does. This is like like a bit of intrigue here, where he says we had no choice. We had to pay the bankers. We gave them everything, and they still wanted more. Valent and Balk, and it's like, ooh, a name drop.
This is the first time we hear about Valent and Balk.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the last.
Yeah, not the last, Harrison. Yep, that's right.
And I like this that the Mercers, despite having such like obvious wealth, I mean, every single Mercer that we've seen so far has had like really opulent clothes. It's been really, they hold themselves higher than everybody else, but it's all just a sham. It's all just a loan from the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whenever, not to push too far into the end of this chapter here, but like whenever his clothes get torn, he's like, Glock's like, oh, that's interesting. It's cheap cloth. And it kind of makes you wonder how much of everything else is cheap, because they're busy. They're so in debt to the bankers that out of all the money that they're making in Westport, which is a lot, over 7 years, they're still paying off the banks.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like the real world.
Yeah.
Just like the real world.
Banks are everywhere.
Damn it, my mortgage sucks ass.
File a complaint like the rest of us. And then Colt says that everyone is doing like the tax evasion, like what were you supposed to do?
He's like, that's small fish.
Yeah, and he says that the real criminals, are in the closed council, the House of Questions, even the university. And I was like, that's odd. And then he goes, he looks at the banks, and then he's the university one. Just, I don't know. Like, what did he know about the university?
I mean, we haven't. I think this is the first mention of it.
Yeah, right.
It really does point him in that direction as well.
Yes. He doesn't. He goes, and not to spoil too much here, but he goes to the university, presumably because of this tip-off.
That's true, because of all this.
And I really like this as sort of like wrapping up Glock's first part in the book. So all of this that he's worked towards has led into this clue that he gets from Colt.
Yeah, something that affects him for perhaps the rest of his life.
He's seen behind the curtain, as it were.
Yeah, that's true. And then Colt sees Frost getting closer and closer, because Frost entered through the side door and was creeping around that giant cabinet. But then Colt says, fuck this, turns, jumps for the window. Frost reaches across for him, grabs his shirt, has him, and it rips. And so Colt, like the way it's written, you can picture it. He just freezes frame in midair and crashes through the window, and then that's it. He's gone.
Yeah, he also is, and that's when we get the torn cloth note by Glock. Is that if it was more expensive, better cloth, it would have held long enough for Frost to pull him up.
Right, or if the window was actually cheaper, if it wasn't of the design where it was less lead, then it would have like held against Colt's weight, his body
Yeah.
crashing against it.
George, what do you think about that symbolism of the building being, this whole time expensive and nice compared to the people?
I mean, that's exactly it, isn't it? That's just a perfect metaphor for the way, financial institutions and things work in the real world. Everything is sort of blown up so that everybody believes in it, because it's the belief in the structure that sort of, props everything else up.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Mercers were just running out of a regular building, then nobody really would have taken them seriously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's good.
That's true.
It's got to point George. I just got to point him in fire, and he's got these amazing fucking
Gotta put me on the spot.
analogies. Yeah, right. He's got these amazing analogies.
I dig it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, and then I like how Glocta is gonna serve the warrant to the letter of the law. He's like, dead or alive, this body is gonna be served with that damn warrant. And so he tells Jalahorn to go cut down disperse of the crowd, and then cut down the body of Magister Cult. And then here the last line of the. Oh, go ahead, George. Go ahead. I know you like the.
You always say the last line.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Magister Cult's last words echoed in his mind. Look in the closed council. Look in the house of questions. Look in the university. Look in the banks, Glocta.
Mm-hmm.
Which just leads us into, the whole of Glocta's story is about conspiracy. So it just, it's fitting that this ends with a bigger conspiracy.
Mm-hmm. I like how it seems like the greatest swordsman of all time has turned into a detective. This is like a Philip Marlowe novel now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I was just gonna say as a final note, that I remember whenever I first got to that part, I was like, finally, it's all been built up. It's good writing, but you're wanting to know where this leads, and we finally get a little hint, something deeper.
Deeper and deeper we go. So, what do you guys rate this chapter?
Gotta go first, Harrison?
Yeah, I'll go first this time. That way I don't sound like the contrarian.
Exactly. Let's do it.
I'm going to go first from now on, in fact.
Oh, okay. All right. You have that right. You have that right.
I'm going to give this a 4 out of 9. Again, it's not because it's a bad chapter, but the thing that really makes you go, whoa, what's that? What's going on? Is this last part where Magister Cult is like kind of helping him out, even though he's about to jump off and die. We get this deeper look into, we get to see, there's a deeper world going on here. It's not just conspiracies with Glocta saying, people are running away from the king's taxes. It's something much deeper than that, and I like that. But of course the chapter's entertaining, but that's about all there really is to it. It's a pretty short chapter too, so.
That's true. Okay, I like that, George.
I'd say I'd give it a 5, just a little bit more than Harrison's, because I do love a lot of these little scenes that we see as we're going through the bank, the guild hall. Even we get one of my favorite lines in this chapter is a baffled merchant was dragged past, squeaking something about his rights. Who cares what, but
yeah,
it's so cynical and sort of edgy. And then, of course, Harrison, like you said, it ends with this fantastic sort of glimpse at the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I honestly, this is funny. This is 3 out of 3 with me and George. I got to give it a 5 out of 9 fingers.
You son of a bitch! I'm still the contrarian.
You're still the contrarian. I'm so sorry. I was so sorry, and this was not planned. I literally had these scores mapped out ahead of time. That's great. I liked it a little bit more than you two as well, just because, because of the little scenes that George said. For me, it's one of my notes is there's no such thing as a peaceful arrest with the Inquisition. It's just straight buffoonery and assault. You know what I mean?
It's always them beating the shit out of whoever their victim is.
Yeah. And then I did like that Cult's confession piqued Glocta's curiosity there at the end of the chapter, and we know when Glocta's curious, the dude is on it like a dog on a bone. So that for me, that's just, this is gonna be nice. What's gonna happen next? Ooh. So I do I like it a little bit more than you, Harrison, and that's okay. You're
Yeah, it's
allowed.
totally fine. I'm just digging around when I'm like, I'm the
No, I know.
contrary.
I know, man. You don't have to explain shit to me. I'm a fucking idiot myself. So, not that I'm calling you an idiot. I'm just saying I'm an idiot.
Wait a minute.
So. Wait a minute. Okay. Well, funny enough that at the end of this chapter, we move on to our character spot. And our character spot is from this chapter.
Yeah, the character spot is Magister Cult, because I mean we I'm sure people are wondering why we haven't done like people like Jalenhorn and things like that, but that's because he is around a little while longer. This guy dies in this chapter, but despite him just being one small character in the first book of the series, he not only does he provides exposition, but I mean this guy didn't have to talk to Glock at all. He's kind of got he was trapped because he was finally able
Right.
to tell somebody right before he died. That's the only reason he did it, and I
love
like that characterization.
I love how he's obviously terrified of Valiant and Bulk because he's gone out of his way to defy the king, defy the Inquisition. He knows the Inquisition's after these 9 people, so he has them killed. I mean, you don't do that unless you are like really deep in the shit.
Right. Yeah, you don't risk the Inquisition coming after you unless you're scared of someone even worse than them.
Exactly.
And he's so scared. Go ahead, Harrison.
No, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's so scared of Valiant and Bulk. He's like, listen, I'll tell you it was them, but I'm killing myself. I'm not letting you ask me any more questions. These guys are crazy. I'm out.
Yeah, I would reckon he jumped more for the fear of Valiant and Bulk than he did of the Inquisition.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think so that made me just think of this question that I'm asking myself that I'm now asking you guys. Do you think he feared Valiant and Bulk or more of Glocta's did he feel more of Glocta torturing him? Because torture sucks, man. It really sucks.
I mean, I think that is why he kills himself in the end. But, to have been driven to the point where, the Inquisition is just straight up after you. And presumably he does say, because we needed to pay the bankers. You know what I mean? And as, anyone who's been in debt knows what kind of, weight that can carry with you.
Right.
And I think that could be seen as sort of like this metaphor for that.
Yeah, he felt like he had no choice. He was backed into a corner. I mean, he was fucked either way from his point of view. If the Inquisition didn't get him and kill him, Valiant and Bulk would.
It certainly seems that way anyway.
For sure.
And it's definitely another thing of we have this character who makes a choice and says he has no choice. And it's such a common recurrence in Joe's works, and I just really like the way it comes up because I mean he's got a point. They got into the debt, so they already made a choice.
That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the 3 of us, and your support means a lot to us.
Join us next week when we cover 3 Signs, the Theatrical Outfitters, and Barbarians at the Gate.
And make sure you follow us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, follow our TikTok, Instagram, and of course we're active on House of the Meme Maker and The First Law on Reddit. We have an account on there if you want to send us any of your contributions, questions, or silly memes that you want us to mention.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
Old Bastard will do for you.